You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
Just when you thought things could not get any more insane, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, meets with President Zelensky of Ukraine in the Oval Office for what was expected to be some negotiations, some diplomacy, and hopefully a route to end the war in Ukraine that Russia started. What it turned out to be was a diatribe of aggression and lies from Donald Trump, interrupted by J.D. Vance. Never before has a president been interrupted by his vice president whilst in front of the cameras, supposedly trying to negotiate a peace treaty. This was possibly one of the most, if not the most insane moment of American political history.
And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you, far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once this entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you? You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you can...
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a minute. No. You've done a lot of talking.
It's clear that Trump does not have a plan to help Ukraine end this war and prevent Russia, the aggressor, from continuing their assault on a sovereign nation. Trump, as we know, is compromised. Trump, as we know, has never said a bad word about Vladimir Putin. And today we saw a side of Trump that exposed who he is really fighting for. We now know that the US, courtesy of this UN meeting, are not going to be supporting Europe going forward. And we now know also from this Munich Security Conference that the US is not going to be helping, as it has over decades since the Second World War, to keep the peace around Europe and the rest of the world. The America First isolationist view that Trump and his enablers have been pushing has now come to a head. And it's clear to me from this interaction between President Zelensky and Trump that relations have now cooled to the point that Trump will simply side with Russia and claim that Zelensky refused to make a deal. That is simply not the case. Trump did not have a deal to offer him. Trump does not have a plan. He does not have a strategy. And the reason he doesn't is because Vladimir Putin will not take his call.
I want to get it solved. If we can solve it, great. If we can't solve it, they're going to have to fight it out, and who knows what's going to happen.
Putin is playing Trump, and Trump doesn't really know where to turn. And you can see during this interaction that Trump doesn't know anything about the history of this conflict. He doesn't know that it started in 2014. He knows that he has to protect himself and the Russian president as well. So Zelensky is positioned as the enemy. He keeps saying to him, you have to say thank you. Why haven't you said thank you? And then lies about $350 billion that we have given you, which is simply not the case. Around $120 billion has been spent in Ukraine replenishing weapons that are made in America. So that money is invested in America, and those weapons that are cascaded down to Ukraine get replenished here in the US.
Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet.
You haven't been alone.
In this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military equipment, and your men are brave, but they had to use our military.
Yes. What about
if you didn't have our military equipment,
if
you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
maybe
new.
Less.
In 2 weeks. Of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this.
Again,
I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of times
Except that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards.
Thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look.
Trump does not really have an argument. He can't argue that a sovereign nation has been invaded by Russia, but wants to rewrite the history of that. J.D. Vance interjects, of course, J.D. Vance, who is smarter than Trump, but still evil, and takes his direction from the oligarchs. And so what we saw was Zelensky on the back foot. He realized that this was a very difficult place to have this type of interaction in front of the cameras, where Trump is basically playing to the cameras and just lying through his veneers to give the impression that he is somehow controlling the situation when he has no plan. And that's why he allowed it to play out. And he even said at the end, this will make great television. That's all he was doing. He knew this would be great television, and he knew that he could use it to weaponize the American people against Ukraine, so that ultimately he can give Vladimir Putin what he wants, which is a land grab.
If you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
With guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me.
For you
that wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person.
That was with Obama. It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful.
We are witnessing one of the most embarrassing events to come out of the Oval Office in history. We are witnessing a president of the United States have no knowledge of a conflict or a situation and lose it. We are witnessing him being interrupted by his vice president, who then comes in with his agenda. And we are witnessing the president of a visiting sovereign nation being treated like an imbecile, when he, in fact, is the smartest man in the room. He, in fact, is only there to represent his country and his people, and he is prepared to negotiate to find lasting peace. But Trump doesn't want to do that because Trump cannot get Putin on the phone. And, you know, at the beginning of this interaction, Trump's like, well, I can't just phone Vladimir Putin. What am I going to do? Ring him up and go, hey, Vlad, let's make a deal.
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal? That doesn't work that way. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough.
Trump has exposed himself yet again as a fool, as a Russian mark, as a Russian asset, but also somebody who is so easily played. And this idea that he is strong or has strength and that Zelensky is weak is so offensive to anybody who knows anything about anything, especially when it comes to the theater of war and how Zelensky has stood firm for his people and been there every single day. And Trump doesn't have even an ounce of the strength and of the resilience that Volodymyr Zelensky does. This story is going to ricochet around the world. European nations will be appalled at the response of Donald Trump in this situation. And I have no doubt that this will be the start of the collapse of the union between the US and Europe. And as Donald Trump said, and no one should ever say this, but for arguably the most powerful man in the world with the largest supply of nuclear weapons to threaten World War III with a sovereign nation who is not the aggressor, who has been invaded by Russia, and repeat, you are asking for World War III, that will be seen as a threat by the international community.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
With guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me.
For you what,
that wasn't with me.
Means.
That was with a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person. That was with Obama.
It was your president.
Excuse me.
I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with MeidasTouch.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.